Time that Tom broke out, and I agree completely.
That might be a good note to end on.
One story Bill Stonecipher told, and I want to be sure that it is recorded, was about his friend and high school classmate S.Q. Ledbetter. S.Q. Ledbetter and Bill Stonecipher both grew up in Overton County, and they graduated from high school in the spring of 1941. By the fall of 1941, they were students at Tennessee Tech in Cookeville. And I asked Bill where he was when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. And he told me that he and S.Q. Ledbetter were at the Triangle Cafe in Cookeville. That's at the junction of Broad and Spring Street on the west side of Cookeville. Almost every person that ever went to school at Tennessee Tech remembers the old Triangle Cafe. He said they were sitting in a restaurant and a customer came in and announced that Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor. And it was from that point on that Bill Stonecipher and S.Q. Ledbetter's life took a dramatic change. It turned out that they both ended up being bomber pilots in the American Air Force. S.Q. Ledbetter flew a B-24 four-engine bomber, and as I've told you before, Bill Stonecipher flew a B-26 twin-engine bomber. Unfortunately, S.Q. Ledbetter got shot down during one of the Pulaski raids. And that was one of the raids that was so daring and so dangerous and so many casualties when the United States was trying to cut off Germany's oil supply. SQ was captured in Albania and ended up being a prisoner of war for about 13 months. And I thought it was so interesting to hear the story about how these two former students, young airmen, returned to the United States at the end of the war, and they're back at Tennessee Tech in Cookeville, Tennessee, college roommates. And I couldn't help but wonder, what would they talk about after fighting a war and coming home and all the experiences that they had.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream
When the war ended in Europe, Bill Stonecipher arrested thousands and thousands of Americans came home by way of ship, and they docked in New York Harbor. I know most of you have seen or will see movies about the great celebrations that went on in New York Harbor when the Americans came home. Bill Stonecipher did not come all the way to Livingston when he arrived in America. He was flown into Fort Knox and ended up in Indiana to visit with the parents of one of his dear friends, a Stickler, whose last name was Stickler, who had been killed during the war and was one of the B-26 pilots in my Uncle Bill's squadron. And my Uncle Bill went to Indiana to visit with his family before coming on to Livingston. As I told you earlier, most of the soldiers went on to college and finished their academic career. My Uncle Bill Stonecipher and my Uncle Walter Stonecipher, who was a combat infantryman in New Guinea and the Philippines, both ended up as students at Tennessee Tech. Their lives could be, I guess, summarized very shortly. They both added a great deal to the community they lived in and to their family. My Uncle Walter was a teacher. My Uncle Bill was an engineer. My Uncle Walter taught in Shelbyville for many years, married his old girlfriend, and she was a teacher, and they had a very beautiful daughter who still lives in Shelbyville. And by coincidence, my Uncle Bill married his girlfriend of high school and younger days, and they had a very beautiful daughter who lives in South Carolina. They were successful in their life, in their business. They, like millions and millions of American people that came home from World War II, added a great deal to America and America's well-being and happiness that will continue into the 20th century. And they truly deserve to be called the world's greatest generation.